Hi people, so this is my Zara cap that I made under 30 minutes and with less than 2,000 naira, also without sewing machine. Yes. So there are lots of back ends to the making of the Zara cap, but before then, let's go back to the very beginning. So hello everyone, my name is Susan. I'm not a seamstress. I'm just someone who loves creating crafts with things available to me. So and I believe we're going to have a lot of fun. So welcome to my channel, and then let me show you how I made this Zara cap without the sewing machine, without much money, on a budget. So these are all the materials I use. This pattern I got it from the tailoring store for 500 naira, and then I have the scissors. I didn't buy the scissors, I used it before. Then measuring tape, and then needle and thread. I got my thread for 15 naira. Then my needle, I have a needle before and I love using long needles. Then my glue gun and candle. The candle is 50 naira for this smaller one. The bigger ones are 100 naira. Then UHG glue, you can use any of it, either the glue gun or the UHG glue. I got the two because I knew I'm working very late at night and there may be no light. And this is Mako. I got this from the shoe cobbler. Yesterday I went to get Mako, those that sell shoe making materials. That's where I got the Mako. Then these are the materials I'll be using. I'm using a net, and then because the net is very transparent, it also have glitters. Yes, the net is transparent. I'm going to be adding my lining into the net to cover my Mako, so people doesn't know the secret of what I'm doing. So basically these are all what I am using. The first thing I did is to measure out the net I'm using. I got half yard and it cost me 300 naira. So I measured out the length is 24 centimeter, then the head circumference is 25 centimeter. I'm using 25 centimeter for the head circumference. Yes, you can use 24 centimeter depending on your own head circumference, but mine is 25 centimeter. So the same measurements also for the lining. For the lining, I used 25 centimeter for the head circumference, and then for the length I used 24 centimeter. I bought a yard of the lining, I think 400 naira, 350. Yes. So like I said, there are back ends to making of this Zara cap. For my Mako, the length is 17 centimeter, while the width is 2.5. Some people use 3 centimeter, but I use 2.5. 2.5 is okay, don't be too big and all that. So the reason why I'm using the lining is to conceal the Mako. And the next thing I'm going to do is to get the midpoint, the middle for the Mako. What I just did was to fold it together, and then this is the middle. I'm going to use my scissors to kind of create a cut, an indent, just to indicate that this is the middle. I'll do the same thing too for my lining. For my lining, my head circumference of 25 centimeter, that is where I'm going to fold into two. And then I'm going to cut it with my scissors. Just like this, just to make sure that I'm not going to make mistake with the midpoint. I'll do the same thing too for the net. The head circumference of 25 centimeter is where I'm going to fold into two, and I'm going to create my cut to mark the midpoint. So this Zara cap, I wanted to use it for New Year 2023, New Year Sunday, and on Saturday I was very busy, market runs, cooking and all that. I couldn't do anything. I just bought the materials and just kept them. So we got back from watch night service or crossover night around after 1, and that is when I started working. So now for my thread, I usually fold my thread into 4. What I do is, after cutting it like this first, getting the length I want, I fold it into 2. Then I insert the folded parts into my needle. Like I said from the beginning, I love using long needles. It saves me a lot of stress and it doesn't take time. Then I tie. So once you insert it into your needle and you tie it, it becomes 4 4. This way it's stronger when you use it to stitch or to sew. And I'll also be showing you how I stitch with my needle. It looks very, very neat, very, very clean, and as if it's even you even use machine to sew it. So now I make sure the midpoint for my marco and my lining are the same. Yes, make sure they're the same. And then I'm going to fold it twice, just like this. Then I'm going to stitch. Make sure where you folded is tight. Make sure it's tight. If you don't fold it tight, your ZARA cap is going to have issues at the end. So what I'm creating now is just the base for the ZARA cap. So I tied my thread and I'm sewing. So I'm stitching on the lining. I'm stitching the lining at the same time I'm stitching the marco. That is, I'm sewing on the marco. If you are using a small needle, you can't sew on marco with small needle because marco is hard. You can't sew on marco with small needle. So just sew on the lining. Make sure the lining is tight like this. This is the way I grab my lining to make sure it's my material to make sure it's tight. And then I'm sewing. If it's not tight, if the folding is not tight, your ZARA cap is going to look very, very funny. So if you are using a short needle, you can't sew on the marco. You have to sew on the lining. But I'm using a long needle, so I'm sewing on the marco. And this is how I sew. Where the thread came out from, I inserted the needle into that same spot, took it to the back of the lining and brought it back to the front, just like this. This way it's very, very clean. Nobody's going to know that you used your hand to sew it. And this is me just stitching it. So I started from the middle and I'm sewing it to the left part, and once I'm through with it like this, I will tie my thread and then go back again to the middle and sew to the right part. If you're using a machine to sew, you just need to stitch straight. But because I'm using my hand, that's why I have to start from the middle and sew it down and the other way around. You can also use your pin, safety pin, to pin it down so that the lining and the marco doesn't move. Now I'm done stitching. Now I come back to my net. And then for my net, I'm going to get the midpoint of my net and make sure the midpoint of my net with my lining are the same thing. Always make sure they're the same thing. Then for my net, I'm not going to sew it because it's net. I'm not going to sew it. I'm going to be using my glue. Now while I was working, there wasn't light, so I had to use my UAG glue. So you can either use your glue gun or you can use your UAG glue. So this is what I did. Make sure I place my lining on the good parts, and then I'm just going to glue it together. Just see the way I'm gluing it with my UAG glue. Apply the glue and glue it to one another. Hold it for a few seconds or press it down, and then it sticks. Now I'm sticking my net to the side where the marco is. That is on the marco. And where I'm stitching is the bad side, the bad face of the clothes, of the fabric, of the lining, the bad face of the fabric. You don't want people to see this part. It has to be inside, the inside side. So this is it. I'm through with it. So I'm going to show you what the front looks like. This is it. This is what the front looks like. Now I'm going to work at the back. What I'm going to do now is to stitch. I'm going to stitch at the back using my stitching method I showed you from the beginning. I'm going to stitch at the back. And what I'm creating is the base for the ZARA cap. Now when you are stitching, make sure you are holding both the net and the lining as you are stitching, the net and the lining, so that I don't leave any one of them out. So the way I'm gathering it and I'm stitching, don't be in a haste, stitch this way. Don't do a running stitch. If you do a running stitch at this stage, it's going to make your sewing loose. So I'm stitching. I just left, I think, half of an inch of the fabric. I'm stitching. Then once I was through stitching that side, I tied up my my thread. Then I went to the base, the bottom of the fabric. Now look at how very neat the sewing is. I went to the base and I'm going to also stitch it to seal up or to close up the base, just like that. And it's very, very simple. Don't do a running stitch when you're sewing like this, because if you do a running stitch, your sewing is going to be loose. And like I said, this took me just 30 minutes, and I didn't spend 2,000 naira. I didn't spend up 2,000 naira creating the ZARA cap. I had the marco already before, so the marco isn't included. When I bought the marco, it was 700 naira. That's a roll was 700 naira. I got it. So yes, if I'm to add the marco, I would say I spend less than 3,000 naira. But without the marco, what I spent wasn't up to 2,000 naira. So this is me sewing the base. After sewing the base, I had excess of the net. This is because I folded the lining twice. For the net, I didn't fold it twice. So this excess, I cut it off because I'm going to use it to create something like a flower at the back of my ZARA cap. So this is how it looks like now. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a running stitch to gather the cap inside. I'm starting from the base, a running stitch just straight like this, as if I want to create gathers, as if I'm creating pleats, just like this. And this running stitch is coming under the first sewing that I did. It's coming under the first sewing that I did. Sorry, I didn't know that my camera, my hands shifted from the camera. So me just creating my running stitch till the end. And then once I was through, I went ahead and tied my thread, and then the base of my ZARA cap was ready. So I told you, it's very, very simple, and this is just me using the materials I had at hand. There's no science to it. It's not rocket science or rock science. Now I'm going to turn this out. I'll turn it out. And this is ready. Now this is actually my second ZARA cap I'm making. I will show you the first ZARA cap I made. For this first ZARA cap I made, I didn't use glue because the material wasn't net. I didn't use glue. But for this one, I wanted something different. I wanted to work with a different fabric or a different material. So this is it. The base is ready. So whatever you decide to do to your ZARA cap from this point is left to you, to your business. So for me, I wanted to do something like a kind of a rosette or a rose at the back. So I got this fabric, the net fabric. The width is 5 centimeters. The length can be as long as you want. That's the reason why I didn't measure the length. Just the width is 5 centimeters. Then I folded it into to make sure it's equal. Then I got my stitch, my needle and thread rather, and I'm doing a running stitch on it, just like this. The point where the two fabric comes together not where the fabric is opened. That point where they come together is where I'm running my stitch from. Just watch the video, it's actually very, very simple. And this is what I mean by running stitch to bring them together. So if I'm creating pleats, like when I did the base for the Zara cap. So this is me adding more of the fabric stripe, folded it into two, and I continue with my running stitch. And depending on how big you want your rose at the back or rosette at the back to be, depending on how big you want it to be. So this is the Zara cap I first created. This one I didn't use glue to do the cap that much, just to glue the accessories to the cap. That's when I use glue. Apart from that, I didn't use glue to make the cap. So depending on how big you want the rosette to be, you keep adding your fabric stripes and keep doing running stitch. I wanted mine to be quite big, so I used up to 10 stripes. I used up to 10 stripes of the fabric because I wanted it to be quite big. I wanted the rosette to be quite big. Then once I was through, I arranged it the way I wanted. So like I said, after making your Zara base, whatever design you want to do is left to you. So this is me arranging the base, arranging the rosette, and then once I was satisfied, I then stitched it. It's me stitching it, just stacking it so that the shape doesn't change or move. Then once I was satisfied, I took it to the Zara cap, the base, and then I stitched it to the back of the Zara cap, and I started stacking it, going in, out. And when I was satisfied that the rosette is staying very well, sitting very well on the Zara cap, I then went ahead and tied my thread and moved on to adding my pattern or embellishments to the cap. So if you are still watching, it means you're enjoying the video, and I want you to leave me a comment of where you are watching my video from, so that I can give you a shout out to my next video. So this is it, and I was true. Now remember the embellishments I bought, the pattern I bought. I'm going to cut out the pattern and fix it on my Zara cap the way I want. Like I said, after getting your base, any other design you want to make is left to you. Creativity, come up with something unique, come up with something nice. So leave me a comment of where you're watching my video from, and I'll give you a shout out in my next video. Also, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications to get notified of all my crafts, my vlog, every time I share them. So this is me adding my pattern embellishment, and now they brought the lights, so I just started using my glue gun, and with my candle attached, I'm applying it. Now the glue gun is quite hot, so I advise you to put a room temperature water. Put room temperature water in a small bowl and keep it near you. But I didn't use that because I was used to working with the glue guns, so I didn't use the water. This is just to keep your hands cool in case you mistakenly touch the melted candle. It's quite hot, so I'm going to cut out this and keep on attaching or applying my pattern, and voila, this is done. So you're going to see me rocking my Zara cap in the next slide. I really love the outcome of this. It came out well. Even when I was in a haste doing this, it came out well. And when I rocked it to church on Sunday, yes, I had people staring. So yes, so it felt good. It felt good. So that's all for me for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.